Hi, today I'm joined by Dushyant, and we're going to take another incredibly interesting question out of the hat. As you guys know, we get like 200 questions a week, so we decided recently to start having our experts in and talk a little bit about, what would you do in this case? Or some questions are fun, some are serious. So, Dushyant, reintroduce yourself to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Dushyant Mitra. I have been in the consulting and professional services space for almost a decade and a half now. And yeah, team, it's great to be back.
Well, thank you. And Dushyant has got a lot of great experience. By the way, he and I just got a chance to get together in person,
That
and that
was
was
great.
really great.
Yes.
Although the place he took me for coffee wouldn't put milk in my coffee,
It was a vegan coffee shop. Yeah.
vegan coffee.
Very, very Oakland. Yeah.
Oat milk was good. It's good for me. Okay. So our question today is, and it's, we're going to try to do this respectfully to all the humans out there, but what type of employees do you have the most challenges with, and which type are the easiest? Now, I want you to know the question actually was much more aggressive than that. What types of employees do you wish that would go away, and what types of employees do you wish more of? So we're not going to quite take it like that, but think about a moment. You've had a lot of different types of people work for you. Take the type that you find challenging.
It's a really good question. And I think it's a question that we all maybe subconsciously think about, but it can often be hard to articulate. But it's good to do that because then you can have clarity in terms of what are the kind of people you want to work with in your career or not. I think personally for me, the kind of people that I have the most challenge with are people who either are or seem to be stagnant, where people are in a framework of thought process, but they don't expand on it creatively.
Right, right. So they kind of retired in grade.
A little bit, right? Because everyone goes through their careers, and when we are fresh, we are like, oh my God, I need to figure out how I work and what are my working styles and cadences. And once I figure that out, I get some success. We create a little bit of a mold for us and we stick in it, which is very understandable. I've done it a number of times as well. But the challenge becomes when over a longer period of time, when you as an individual have changed, your management might have changed, your company might have changed, the economy might have changed, you might have moved to a different organization, and you don't change that mold. Therein I feel like comes stagnation, and with stagnation comes lack of creativity, and with lack of creativity in the workplace, I think it inhibits progress to a large extent.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Something I've seen, which is related to that in the last couple of years, and is people who come in primarily concerned, as we should be concerned, but it manifests itself on work-life balance, and it just manifests itself enough different that I didn't want to do that. I didn't find it interesting. I don't like to do that. And what I always feel, the same thing you were feeling, is, oh my God, don't hurt your career by opting out of new learning experiences. Don't hurt your career by not being seen as a above and beyond producer. Don't, don't
Having a growth mindset, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And by the way, learning is fun. And as you know, I'm a person who reads 2 books every single week. I reread all of Euclid last year, and that's totally useless for life, but I wanted to understand. So another type I'd like your opinion on is those who they either give the aura of or they give the demonstrative of, I already know all this. So I'm not open to working with people. I'm not open. In some ways, I'm an individual contributor that doesn't like a team, but in other ways, I'm just an arrogant expert, and it's hard for me to get them on teams and make them. Again, I'm always worried about making people successful.
Yeah, yeah. And that kind of personality does exist and often exists without them realizing that they're being that. Some people might explicitly say that. And even with the stagnation part that I was talking about, oftentimes it's very subconscious.
Oh, I agree. I agree. My wife calls it background, foreground.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think their background doing it. I don't think anybody chooses to stifle their career.
Correct, exactly. But they don't realize that that's happening. So if you do come across someone who is projecting that I already know this and I don't need to learn more, I think number one, honest conversations, ongoing feedback is extremely important. If you can't trust your coworkers with not having an ego about listening to feedback and trying to improve their day to day, there's a wider organizational cultural problem that needs to be solved, right? And some of that needs to be taken care of in the hiring process and the performance evaluation process as well. But I think if you connect with someone at a grassroots level and talk to them about, here's what I'm noticing, being without it sounding like an accusation, without trying to put someone down, without inflating your own ego, most people in organizations that are growing and want to do well, most people want to be part of that journey. And so I feel like exchanging that feedback becomes hypercritical, and we shouldn't jump to a conclusion to say that, oh, I mean, it's easy to give up on people, but we shouldn't do that because we don't know what context they're coming from. Maybe they've spent the last 2 years trying to fight for resources and budget, but nothing's available, so that's why they've come into that mold. But it might be different. There might be another way. They might need a fresh perspective, which happens all the time.
I completely agree, and we'll move on a second to employees we really like. But I do think one of the big keys, if you're going to invest in them, you need to give them feedback. You need to give them, and it needs to be honest and understandable. I see all the time that I'll meet with someone in an organization, and I know what the organization feels, and I ask them, and they haven't heard those words. Right. Sometimes it's themselves, but often it's, people don't like to give feedback. So let's move on to something really positive. I'll start with I love having an employee that takes on stuff that makes my life easier.
Yeah, yes.
I admit it. I like to know, oh, you got that. I don't need to do it. I love that.
Honestly, I think it's the fastest way to make progress in your career. If you identify your peer group, your management, and see what is their scope of work and what aspects of that can I take off of their plate. They will be extremely interested in doing that because it makes their life a little more structured, a little easier. It makes your life better because you are getting exposure to the next level, 100%. Um, and this is not a cop out answer, but like the flip of what I said earlier is the kind of people I really like working with, people who are not feeling stagnated, people who are creative. And I think there's a very simple anecdote that a mentor once told me. I'll explain it very simply. When you start a new job, you might have 100 units of work, but it might take you 120 units of time to finish. Then you'll slowly get onboarded, you'll get better, you'll finish 100 units of work in 100 units of time. However, soon you'll be able to finish that 100 units of work in 80 units of time. And that balance that comes up is what creates space to be able to do things that are next level. And if you follow something like this, I follow this all the time, it also prevents it from coming in the way of your work life balance because that's
Yeah,
important too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We teach internally efficiency. Don't waste time. Every day, every week, every lap, you want to be able to be more efficient because you need that extra time. Not just to balance, because that's very important. And I've been consulting for 40 years, so balance is very important. Raise 5 kids, but also so that you can have time to think, have time to plan, have time to do things and invest in things that you don't have. So efficiency. All right. Well, listen, this has been wonderful as always.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. Great seeing you.